This week we're talking a little bit about environments, and normally if we were in a face-to-face class I'd take you into the lab school, but instead we're going to look at some pictures here and talk about the environment. And the environment is not just a classroom, a place to visit, but it can have severe and significant impact on a lot of things on children as well as on teachers. So it can have an impact on behavior. Think about the ways that a classroom setup can have an impact on behavior. Interactions. How is a classroom set up to promote or deny interactions? Child and teacher satisfaction. A parent's perception of the program. One of the things that a lot of parents I have spoken to, or a lot of students that are parents that I've spoken to, have said that when they've walked into a center and they smell and it smells, that's the first turnoff for them, especially if it smells like diapers or just unclean. Relationships. How can an environment promote healthy relationships? And why do you think that environment has such a big impact on everyone that is in the environment? So if we think about in factors to consider when we're designing an environment or setting up our environment, a clean environment is much more inviting. Environments that include elements of home are more welcoming. A lot of times family child cares set their homes up to be more like classrooms, and really what we should be doing is setting up our classrooms to look more like home, making sure that there are a lot of seating that's very comfortable, couches, those kind of things. What do kids gravitate towards at home? And feel comfortable with. Clearly defined classroom areas promote more in-depth play and organizations. If we just have one big room and toys all around the walls, that is not going to promote play as it would if it was into sections. So this is a clearly defined block area here. This is clearly defined as a writing area or manipulatives. So if you have it set up so that there are areas, it's so much easier for them to figure out what they're to do in the space. And you also don't promote them running back and forth in a big space. Consider the room layout and activity area. To facilitate the type of behaviors or play specific to each area. If you do not encourage children to climb in your classroom, then you wouldn't put a ladder there. So what kind of things are you asking them to do in your spaces? If you do have a big open space, are you encouraging them to kind of run around and do calisthenics and gymnastics? If they're in a smaller space and it's clearly defined and there are blocks all around, are they going to use that area for calisthenics or are they going to use it for blocks? We also want to set up the environment to promote children's independence and self-sufficiency. Children don't want to ask for things to play with. They do not want to say, can you get me the markers? Can you get me the puzzles? Can you get me this? Because they're not going to get your attention when they need it at all times. And it's frustrating to have to ask for everything that they want to do. Limit large open spaces or pathways. Look at lighting sources. Natural lighting is going to be best. Lighting plays a big impact on adults as well as children. So sitting under fluorescent lights all day does not promote good eyesight, and it doesn't promote a feeling of productivity. Look at background noises. Are you by a freeway? Is there a way that you can kind of take away that noise? And then also look for a balance of hard and soft materials. There should be a lot of, it's very easy to find hard materials. It's less easy to find soft materials. Do you have enough soft materials in there? Our spaces also should have documentation of children's work. So if you look at this is an example of a documentation that was put up in one of the areas at the lab school on nature that the children were looking at nature, and so the teachers documented it so the parents knew exactly what was going on in the classroom every day. Here's another board that is all about dramatic exploration, and so it was about a project that they had done on dramatic play. Here's an example of after a book that they read, that they talked about the book and putting their own feelings into it and their own feedback into it and writing it down for them, using writing down their words. And they love to have the teacher write their words down. Here's an example of more documentation of their work. They were drawing what they believed a rocket ship would look like. Here's an example of some, they were doing restaurants. And so just part of the small activity was doing some observational drawings. What does a restaurant look like for you? What do we need for a restaurant? They came up with a name for the restaurant, and they actually built a restaurant, little front for a restaurant, and then had a pretend restaurant in the classroom for quite a while because they were very interested in this. So look at some of the pictures in this area for curriculum. What stands out to you when I show you some of these pictures? If you notice, there is a lot of natural wood in the classroom. It's not overwhelming with primary colors. That's actually funny because the teacher in that classroom has a Rams flag up because her Rams won that year or something. I don't know. She was having a little thing with another parent who hated the Rams, and so she was that was playful. But things to consider when you're planning your environment, bringing in nature into the classroom. If you saw that back there, quite a lot of nature is coming into the classroom, the plants and the natural woods. Assess the environment for balance of active versus quiet play. Rotate materials. So if you can't see in these pictures, but there's quite a bit of storage cabinets around the classroom so that they can actually put, and in the hallways, where they can actually rotate the materials in and out of the classroom. This is a fun activity they set up with water to put the water in, and it kind of followed that little path that they built. When we think about the environment, I love this quote. Patricia Char challenges early childhood educators to think beyond the idea of decorating classroom walls with scalloped borders and alphabet posters. Work that follows formulaic schemas, such as prescriptive worksheets or those St. Patrick's Day mobiles hanging from the ceiling, stifles the true capabilities of young children and consequently silences imagination and creativity. So when we think about art, it's not about project art or the end result of art. Art is not a craft. Art should follow open-ended, and children should pick what they want to do. So if you think about a preschool classroom that has a bulletin board with the scalloped borders around it, and then you've got all of the children that drew a 4-leaf clover, and they were given green paper, they were given green crayons. That's not a creative activity, is it? It's what are they getting out of that activity? And when we talk about outdoors, What did you like to do outside? What types of outdoor space did you most enjoy? And so one of the things I really want for our outdoor space at the lab school is one of those concrete culverts where they can climb in. That was one of my favorite childhood memories in the park. They do have this outdoor kitchen, and it's a mud kitchen. So they fill it with mud, they fill it with water to make the mud, and the kids play out there because they noticed that the children were always trying to get any mud puddle that they can find and start digging in there. So they created a whole space for them to be able to do that. They also have activities set out outside. They have, this is a dramatic play area where they have an outdoor kitchen, and they have some clothes in the, to dress up in that cabinet. A balance of activities as far as sand and climbing and grass and toys, and areas defined outside. Also bringing in, you can see the zoo animals there. They were creating some, the teachers set up a provocative table outside with some branches and some wood and some animals to see how the children would play with that. One of the things that I used to do is challenge the teachers. When I was the director at the lab school, I would challenge the teachers to come up every Friday with an activity that created a sense of wonder. So something that they brought into the classroom that was new and not talked about, just bring in something. And so it might be just bubbles, a bubble machine. One day they did a tent. So when the kids came in, there was a tent in the room. And they loved that. One day they put out aluminum foil all over the room and cut off big chunks of aluminum foil and spread it out, and just put out aluminum foil boxes all over the room and to see what they would do. One time they covered the whole room with paper, white butcher paper, and set out pens around the classroom. So just something that creates a sense of wonder. What can you add to the classroom experience that could add a sense of wonder? Because children don't want to come to the same space every day. Adding a sense of wonder makes it exciting and fresh and new.